They laughed and said I couldn't manage finances. Then I showed them my 7-figure portfolio. The Hamilton estate dining room had always felt like a courtroom, especially on family gathering days. Maybe it was the mahogany paneling that seemed to absorb light, or the way conversations echoed off the crystal chandelier, or simply the judgmental stares from relatives who viewed me as the family disappointment. Today felt particularly hostile. I smoothed my modest navy blazer, a sharp contrast to my sister's Chanel suit, and settled into my assigned chair at the polished dining table. Middle row, left side, the designated spot for the family's financial failure. Emma, darling. Aunt Patricia's voice carried that familiar tone of fake sweetness. So wonderful, you could make it. I nodded politely, watching as the Hamilton family power structure filled the room. Uncle Charles, the self-proclaimed family financial advisor since my grandfather's passing. His wife Patricia, forever the concerned relative while spreading gossip like wildfire. Their son David, groomed since childhood to manage the family trust. And naturally, my sister Jessica, who'd spent the last decade positioning herself as the responsible one. Now that we're all here, Uncle Charles began, adjusting his expensive glasses, we need to address some troubling matters. I knew exactly what was coming. The whispered phone calls, the concerned glances, the way they'd been asking pointed questions about my lifestyle lately. The Hamilton family's specialty intervention disguised as love. Emma, he continued, his voice taking on that patronizing tone reserved for problem children. We've been discussing your financial situation. Of course they had. The Hamilton family's favorite pastime, analyzing everyone else's money while protecting their own interests. Your recent spending patterns are concerning, he went on. Large cash withdrawals, expensive purchases, investments in companies we've never heard of. I kept my expression neutral, though my heart was pounding. They'd been monitoring my accounts. Probably had someone at the bank feeding them information. Classic Hamilton tactics. We're worried about you, sweetie, Aunt Patricia chimed in, her diamond bracelet catching the light. These risky financial decisions, these questionable investments, it's not appropriate for someone with your limited experience. Jessica barely hid her smirk. We just want to protect you from yourself, Em. Protect me. The same excuse they'd used when they blocked my business school application, when they convinced me to take that dead-end job at their accounting firm, when they insisted I live in the family guest house instead of getting my own place. The family has decided, Uncle Charles declared, standing for dramatic effect, that it's time for some financial oversight. We'll set up a modest monthly allowance, but all major purchases will need family approval. I'm 29 years old, I said quietly. I don't need an allowance. Don't be stubborn, Emma, my sister snapped. This is for your own good. You're just like Dad, always chasing get-rich-quick schemes, never thinking about consequences. The mention of my father hit like a physical blow. Thomas Hamilton, the family rebel who dared to challenge their conservative investment philosophy, who'd seen potential where they saw problems, who'd died of a heart attack when I was 16, leaving me alone with these vultures. Your father's reckless investments nearly destroyed this family, Uncle Charles reminded me. We won't let history repeat itself. I reached for my leather briefcase, moving slowly and deliberately. Before you make any decisions about my financial capabilities, maybe you should see something. Emma, Jessica warned, but I was already opening my laptop. I turned the screen around. The first page showed a conservative investment portfolio, index funds, blue-chip stocks, exactly what they'd expect from someone they considered financially incompetent. But as I clicked to the next screen, the room's temperature seemed to drop. Cryptocurrency holdings, real estate investments, startup equity, and most importantly, a substantial position in Hamilton Financial Services shares purchased quietly through various investment vehicles over the past 6 years. What is this? Uncle Charles's voice had lost its condescending edge. "My portfolio," I said calmly. "The one you apparently missed while you were busy monitoring my checking account." David leaned forward, his face paling as he recognized some of the investments. "These are our client companies." "Correct," I confirmed. "And your major competitors, and several firms that have been acquiring Hamilton Financial's market share." I clicked to the next page. "Oh, and this might interest you, Uncle Charles. Remember that mysterious buyer who's been purchasing Hamilton Financial stock through Goldman Sachs?" The color drained from his face. "That's impossible. We tracked every major purchase." "You tracked what I wanted you to track," I said, closing the laptop gently. "My father taught me more than just get-rich-quick schemes before he died. He taught me how to build wealth quietly." "You're lying," Jessica accused, but her voice trembled. "There's no way you could have accumulated this much." I smiled, reaching into my briefcase for a manila folder. "Remember that risky cryptocurrency investment I made 4 years ago? The one you all mocked me for?" I slid the folder across the table. Bitcoin hit $60,000 last month. My initial $10,000 investment is now worth $1.2 million. The silence was deafening. Uncle Charles had gone completely rigid, his confident posture crumbling. Aunt Patricia's mouth hung open in shock. "I've spent the last 6 years building something," I continued, my voice steady, "while you were all busy monitoring my coffee purchases and criticizing my questionable decisions. I was becoming your largest individual shareholder." Uncle Charles's hands shook as he flipped through the documents. "How?" he managed finally. "How did you do this without us knowing?" I stood up, straightening my blazer. "Because you were so convinced I was incompetent, just like you thought my father was, that you never bothered to look beyond the surface." "The board meeting," David suddenly said, realization dawning. "Next month, the vote on the company's future direction." "Yes," I confirmed. "Interesting timing for this family intervention, isn't it? Trying to restrict my financial freedom just weeks before a major vote." Uncle Charles stepped toward me, his face reddening. "Now listen here, young lady." "No," I cut him off. "You listen. For 13 years I've watched you run this family like a dictatorship. That ends now." I gathered my things and headed for the door, then paused. "Oh, and about that allowance? I think I'll manage just fine on my own." The last thing I heard as I walked out was Jessica's voice, barely a whisper. "How did we not see this coming?" I smiled as I stepped into the hallway. They had no idea this was just the beginning. Next month's board meeting would bring revelations that would make today look like a minor disagreement. In my car, I pulled out my phone and dialed a familiar number. "Marcus?" "Yes, everything went according to plan. Start reaching out to the other shareholders. It's time for phase 2. The Hamilton family had always underestimated me. Next month, they'd learn exactly how costly that mistake would be. The following weeks passed in a blur of strategic planning and phone calls. By Sunday night, my phone showed 47 missed calls from various family members, each more desperate than the last. "Emma, honey, let's talk about this rationally," Aunt Patricia. "You're making a huge mistake, Jessica. This isn't what your father would have wanted, Uncle Charles." That last one made me laugh. They'd spent 13 years telling me my father was a failure, and now they wanted to invoke his memory as leverage. I sat in my downtown apartment purchased through one of my holding companies, reviewing the documents one final time. The modern high-rise offered a perfect view of the Hamilton Financial Building, where tomorrow, everything would change. A gentle knock interrupted my thoughts. "Come in, Sarah." My assistant entered with a stack of folders. "Final confirmation from the major shareholders. They'll support your motion tomorrow." I nodded, accepting the folders. "And the media?" Sarah checked her tablet. "Standing by. The moment the vote is confirmed, they'll run the story." "Perfect." I walked to the window, looking down at the building where my father had once worked. Any word from the forensic accountants? Yes, they finished their analysis. Everything's documented just as you suspected. I smiled. Uncle Charles had always been arrogant, but his arrogance had made him careless. The audit had uncovered exactly what I'd hoped: years of questionable transactions, nepotistic contracts, and hidden financial improprieties. My phone buzzed. David this time. I answered, putting it on speaker. "Emma, please," he started, his voice uncharacteristically humble. "We can work something out." "Can we, cousin? Like when you worked out having me removed from the executive training program?" He faltered. "That was different. We were protecting the company." "No, David. You were protecting yourselves. Tomorrow's board meeting." I paused. "I guess you'll have to show up to find out what happens." I ended the call and turned to Sarah. "Everything ready for tomorrow?" She nodded. "Car at 7:30. Security briefed. All documents prepared." After she left, I opened my father's desk drawer and pulled out a worn leather notebook. His personal journal, the one I'd found hidden in his home office after his death. Inside were detailed notes about every suspicious transaction, every questionable deal, every instance of Uncle Charles's financial manipulation. But more importantly, it contained my father's true vision for Hamilton Financial: innovative, ethical, forward-thinking. Everything the current leadership feared. "Tomorrow, Dad," I whispered, touching the worn pages. "Tomorrow we finish what you started." Monday morning arrived crisp and clear. I dressed carefully: charcoal power suit, pearl necklace that had belonged to my grandmother, hair pulled back in a professional chignon. The lobby of Hamilton Financial was buzzing when I arrived. Board members, shareholders, and executives all trying to look busy while stealing glances at me. Word had spread quickly. "Emma," Uncle Charles's voice boomed across the marble floor. "A word before the meeting." I turned, facing him with a calm smile. "Sorry, Uncle. All communication should go through my legal team now." His face darkened. "This is family business." "No," I corrected. "This is just business. You taught me that, remember? When you blocked my promotion and told everyone I was too emotional for client relations." Before he could respond, the elevator opened and Marcus Wellington stepped out. My father's former colleague and now my closest business ally. "Emma," Marcus called warmly, "ready for today?" Uncle Charles's face went pale. Marcus wasn't just a respected industry veteran, he was also head of the Financial Services Regulatory Board. "More than ready," I replied, watching Uncle Charles retreat hastily. The boardroom filled quickly. I took my seat not in my usual back corner, but at the head of the table, the position I'd earned through years of patient strategy. "Before we begin," Uncle Charles started, trying to maintain control, "I think we should address recent developments." "Actually," I interrupted smoothly, "we should follow the agenda. First item, leadership review and vote of confidence." I nodded to Sarah, who began distributing thick folders to each board member. "What is this?" Aunt Patricia demanded, flipping through pages. "A comprehensive audit of Hamilton Financial's management practices over the past decade," I replied. "Pay special attention to pages 23, 31. The evidence of financial irregularities is particularly interesting." The room erupted in whispers as people began reading. Uncle Charles's face cycled through several shades of red and white. "This is preposterous," he stammered. "These transactions were all legitimate." "Approved by you," I finished, "using your authority as trustee after my father's death, including the systematic undervaluation of his shareholdings." Jessica stood up, panic clear in her voice. "We can explain everything." "Sit down, sister," I said quietly. "The time for explanations is over." I stood, commanding the room's attention. "As the majority shareholder of Hamilton Financial, I call for an immediate vote of no confidence in the current leadership." The next hour was chaos. Votes were cast, accusations flew. Uncle Charles tried to challenge the legality of my shareholdings only to be shut down by both legal teams. In the end, the numbers were clear: 68% in favor of removal. Uncle Charles, Aunt Patricia, and their entire management team gone, effective immediately. As security escorted them out, Jessica finally spoke. "What happens now?" I turned to her, seeing genuine fear in her eyes for the first time. "Now we rebuild, the way Dad always wanted to." The press release went out within hours. Hamilton Financial announces major leadership change. Emma Hamilton takes control in historic board vote. By evening, I sat alone in what had been Uncle Charles's office, looking out over the city lights. The same view he'd enjoyed while plotting to keep me powerless. My phone buzzed a text from Sarah. "Your sister is downstairs. Should I send her up?" I considered for a moment, then replied, "Yes. It's time for a real family meeting." Jessica entered the office like she was walking into a trap. Cautious, defensive, her designer handbag clutched tightly. "The conquering hero," she said, attempting sarcasm but failing to hide her uncertainty. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. "Sit down, Jess. We need to talk." She perched on the edge, as if ready to flee. "I suppose you'll be firing me too." "That depends," I replied, opening my laptop, "on whether you're ready to hear the truth about Dad's death." Her composed facade cracked slightly. "What are you talking about?" I turned the screen toward her. "These are Dad's original business records, the ones Uncle Charles claimed were destroyed in his office fire. Funny how they turned up in his personal safe." Jessica's hands began to shake. "You broke into Charles's private files?" "I've been everywhere, Jess. Every account, every hidden document, every secret meeting recording. I know exactly what happened 13 years ago." The color drained from her face as I continued. "Dad wasn't being reckless with investments. He discovered Uncle Charles's embezzlement scheme. The heart attack happened the day before he planned to present evidence to the board." "No," she whispered, but there was no conviction in her voice. "Yes," I said firmly. "And you knew. Maybe not everything, but you knew something was wrong. That's why you let them sideline me, minimize my role, keep me from asking questions." Tears began streaming down her cheeks. "They said they were protecting the family legacy." "They were protecting themselves," I corrected. "And you helped them, all while treating Dad's memory like something shameful." She stood abruptly, pacing the office. "What do you want from me, Emma? An apology? Confession?" "It's been 13 years. I want the truth," I said. "For once in your life, just tell me the truth." She stopped at the window, staring out at the city. "Charles told me Dad was going to destroy everything, that his investigation would bankrupt us all. I was scared. When he died, I thought..." She trailed off. "When he died, you chose sides," I finished. "You chose them over Dad's memory. Over me." "I chose survival," she snapped, turning to face me. "I was 25 with no real power in this family. What would you have done?" I stood slowly, walking to face her. "I would have fought. Like I've been fighting for the past 6 years. Like Dad taught me to." Silence fell between us, heavy with years of unspoken resentment. "The authorities will want to talk to you," I said finally. "About what you knew, when you knew it." She nodded, suddenly looking exhausted. "And if I cooperate? Then you can keep your position, under supervision, but your days of blind loyalty to Uncle Charles are over." My phone buzzed a news alert. "Hamilton financial scandal deepens. Former leadership under federal investigation." "It's really over, isn't it?" Jessica asked, reading the headline. "Their version is over," I corrected. "Mine's just beginning." The following months transformed Hamilton Financial completely. The federal investigation into Uncle Charles and his associates widened. David fled to Switzerland, his assets frozen. Aunt Patricia had a very public breakdown at the country club. But more importantly, the company began to flourish. I implemented the innovative strategies my father had outlined in his journal, opened leadership positions based on merit rather than family connections, established a strict ethics oversight committee. The market responded enthusiastically. Our stock price doubled, new partnerships formed. The financial press called it the Hamilton Renaissance. 3 months after the takeover, I was reviewing quarterly reports when Sarah announced an unexpected visitor. "Send them in," I said, not looking up from my work. "Hello, Emma." I froze at the familiar voice. Uncle Charles stood in my doorway, looking decades older, his arrogant swagger replaced by defeat. "You're not supposed to be here," I said calmly, pressing the security alert under my desk. "I needed to see you, to understand." He gestured vaguely at the office, at me. "How did we miss it?" I leaned back, studying him. "You saw what you wanted to see. A quiet girl who wouldn't cause trouble, a convenient scapegoat for your schemes. Your father," he started, then stopped. "Thomas would be proud." "Don't," I cut him off sharply. "Don't you dare speak about my father." Security arrived, ready to escort him out. "One last question," he said as they took his arms. "Was it worth it? Destroying your family for revenge?" I stood walking to face him. "This wasn't about revenge, Uncle Charles. This was about justice. For Dad, for every person you crushed with your corruption. The family destroyed itself. I just speak about my father." Security arrived, ready to escort him out. "One last question," he said as they took his arms. "Was it worth it? Destroying your family for revenge?" I stood walking to face him. "This wasn't about revenge, Uncle Charles. This was about justice. For Dad, for every person you crushed with your corruption. The family destroyed itself. I just exposed the truth." After he was gone, I opened my father's journal again, turning to his final entry. "To my dearest Emma, never let them make you doubt yourself. True strength isn't in controlling others, it's in staying true to your principles. They may call you weak now, but someday you'll show them what real power looks like. I believe in you, always." Tears blurred my vision as I traced his handwriting. "We did it, Dad," I whispered. "We finally did it." My phone buzzed a text from Jessica. "Dinner tonight? Just us. We have a lot to rebuild." I hesitated, then replied, "Yes, we do." Looking out over the city, I felt peace for the first time in 13 years. The Hamilton family would never be the same, but maybe that was exactly what it needed. Tomorrow's board meeting would finalize our new direction and establish the Thomas Hamilton Foundation for Financial Ethics. They'd called me financially incompetent, too naive to handle money. Now they called me CEO, but more importantly, I could finally call myself my father's daughter proudly, openly, without shame. And that was worth more than all the Hamilton millions combined.